Despite my New Year's resolution of drawing a different animal every month to try and diversify my skills, I'm finding that drawing animals is just well beyond the realm of what kind of makes sense to me as an artist, and I'm finding that I am way worse at it than I would have ever anticipated. So in an attempt to remedy the fact that my practicing attempts are resulting in consistent failures, I have decided to meet myself in the middle and draw saytrs, because half animal, half human means only half of it can fail, right? That's how this works, right? So, hi, hey, hello, if you're new here, my name is Rain. If you're not new here, welcome back. I really appreciate you stopping on by to my little corner of the internet, and I highly suggest that you get your sketchbook out, your drawing supplies, a digital drawing, whatever, and get cozy and settle in to get creative and hang out with me for the next, 40 minutes or so. So I hope you watch this video all the way to the end and you enjoy hanging out with me. But let's talk about saytrs and how hard it is to draw animals for a minute. Oh, and I'm super sorry about the corner of my tripod being visible in the very, very corner of the screen or with my phone stand. It goes away eventually, but I am really sorry that it's in the way. Okay, back to the video. For starters, Rain, why do you want to draw animals? Why are you particularly struggling at this point in the year? 8 months in. Well, my graphic novel hates me, that's why. No, more seriously, I have found that to draw nature, you have to draw animals. Yes, that I knew. And that drawing animals in the very, very distance is easy enough because they don't need to look good. Issue, I want to make animals an important component of my story, right? I want Loki to be led out of the forest when they first awaken by foxes. I want the reality of who Loki is, despite them not knowing who they are at that moment, to be represented in animal form, right? I want the cunning, mischievous, intelligent, sly, but caring, adorable, loving, and playful creature that is a fox to be the first thing that Loki sees when they wake up. Problem, I can't draw foxes. Oh my god, they're so hard. Please send help. I'm desperate. But in trying to draw foxes this month and trying to really just explore animals and draw them and make it so that I can do my comic without there being just really horrendously drawn animals in it, but then really nice looking people, has been uniquely difficult for me. Very uniquely hard for me to actually achieve, which I didn't anticipate being my issue. I really expected them to not look good, but I didn't expect them to look so bad that I am wallowing in my own self-shame. So, I decided that the most effective method for resolving this issue is to do what I always do, and try a completely different method in hopes that it will resolve all of my problems, instead of just pushing forward and praying that something will click for me eventually. Because I'm not one of those people. I spent a lot of my years in academics undiagnosed with my mental health condition and unaccommodated for my chronic health condition that both impede my ability to think the way people are, quote, expected, unquote, to think and process information. And if there is anything that I learned from being an unaccommodated, mistreated, and even directly to my face denied accommodations child in a higher education environment, and as somebody who did not properly attend high school and instead attended community college, I found that learning to accommodate yourself and reframe the way you think and process information to a way that works for you is the only way to really effectively succeed in a world that isn't going to bend to you or even acknowledge your existence, right? If I can go to my the people at my school and request accommodations and have proof of a disability that impedes and impairs my ability to process and intake information and think according to the current standards for people, and to be told to my face, no, you're doing fine on your own, you don't need accommodations, and then sent back into the wild where I was actively struggling, failing tests, and not actually processing any information, to the point that I had to start attending community college instead of high school so that I would be able to get the accommodations I needed to succeed, is a problem. And well, that is a problem and is something that should not have happened to me. It taught me the cold hard lesson that nobody cares about you and you need to be ready to fend for yourself. And so when I find myself in a situation where I try a couple of times and it's just like not working, like nada, none, zilch, nothing is clicking for me, that is a sign that we need to try something completely different in my book. I am not somebody who exists in shame around the fact that I need to generally try things a little bit differently to usually get to the solution that other people easily could get to through completely normal means. However, I do feel shame when I continuously fail before I come to the conclusion that what I'm doing is just not the solution for me. So, the moment I started feeling like really embarrassed about myself, not being able to draw foxes in my private life where nobody was watching me, like the only animals I think I've drawn on my channel since making this art resolution were my frogs. And I liked my frogs. They were really dorky. Did they look like frogs? They looked like frogs enough. I thought they were cute and I really, really liked them personally, so that's fine. But once I start feeling embarrassed about my self-perceived inadequacies, usually that means that I need to just try a different method. So, for me, I was thinking, what do I do? How do you learn to draw animals if not by just drawing animals? And I thought of the kooky approach of trying to draw things that are only half animal. Because I am a character designer and illustrator, and character design is my bread and butter, if I just approach drawing animals, creatures, and characters who are only half animals so far, if I can get half of the problem solved, or at least start to get comfortable thinking about animal biology a little bit, maybe I could start to bridge that kind of mental gap between who I am and how I draw now, and who I want to be as an artist who can draw animals in the future, right? Surely if I can start thinking about animals in a smaller, more accessible, bite-sized approach, then maybe I can actually achieve my goal of being able to draw animals good enough that I will not be memed on when I post my graphic novel until my dying day. Which is really kind of all I'm asking for at this point. Like, can I just draw an animal good enough that I will not be mocked about how bad my animals look until I die? That's the goal here, right? Like, that's the bar, okay? It's basically on the floor for me, but if we can get above ground, we're winning, guys. Like, that's where I'm at, right? So, we're drawing satyrs, and we're doing it strategically so that drawing animals does not feel like being bludgeoned with a bat. And I must say, spoilers, I think that this was actually the perfect solution. I had a lot of fun, and at no point was I really sitting there and thinking, oh my god, I can't draw ghosts, this is the hardest thing on the entire planet, I'm going to die, spontaneously combust, and I'm a failure. Every time I got confused or I wasn't feeling great about the sketches, because there are sketches I left out of the video just because I feel like I don't need this video to be an hour and 50 minutes long. Every time I didn't feel great about a sketch, it wasn't like, oh, this is a horrible thing. I felt like I was actually getting to the point where I was starting to learn. You know, that kind of the frustrating but pleasant part of learning when you can tell you're on the edge of the breakthrough to understanding that thing, to that final click where you know you're gonna start to understand it. Every time I messed up an attempt at a goat joint system and trying to figure out how I wanted to draw goat legs, I could feel myself building to that point where it was going to click for me. And that felt so good. And I think that's what I've been really lacking in my attempts of drawing animals just outright. And I think that this approach actually did really solve a lot of my personal issues with trying to achieve my goals the way I was before this. So let's talk about how stupid goat joints are. For starters, I do think that my first satyr sketch, like traditionally, is my better one. I don't like the second one as much, but I wanted to like push myself, so we'll talk about that in a moment. But this one right here that we're looking at is definitely the one I like the most, because I think the cape is, one, super adorable. I really like the way that the kind of raggedy texture complements the furry thighs and legs and all of that. And then additionally, it has a very kind of feminine top to it. And so you really kind of show off the human component of the features. But then we have the kind of like really fun kind of raggedy cape that implies an adventurous spirit to it. So I really like that. However, I do think that the arms are a little short. I wanted to make them shorter so that they weren't combating with like the long legs. And so while the intention was there, I do wish I would have made them a little bit longer so that they fell around mid-thigh. I think that they just needed to be overall very long. I think when drawing a satyr, it doesn't really make sense quite to have the arms have a similar length to the legs, like completely, but I definitely think you can kind of push that length even further when you're exploring something like that, and it implies an ability to get down on all fours and kind of walk differently, but not quite actually being feasible, so it might add a little bit of an uncanniness if they get too long, but I'm not sure what the actual boundary there should be exactly. Like I didn't reach that conclusion and which one was actually the ideal length, but I definitely think that they're a little bit too short on the first sketch, and so kind of annoying, but it's okay, all good, all fine. Overall, for the second one, I did want to challenge the kind of extensiveness with the animal component of the satyr, and I wanted it to feel a little bit more kind of, I don't know, stereotypical animal person, like stereotypic, they're not anthropomorphic because they're half human, half animal, but I wanted it to feel a little bit more like a classic animal caricature, and that's largely just because I'm not entirely sure what that looks like in my style, and so I wanted to play with the tropes a little bit and kind of figure out that baseline in my art style as well, and kind of catalog that information. And I don't hate it, but it does make me incredibly uncomfortable. Don't love it. But we'll talk about that when we actually get to those features and why. So just like put that little like nugget of information in the back of your brain, because we're gonna get there in a minute. But I wanted to like forewarn that this one looks like extra weird, and I know it. It was intentional, but I still don't jive with it, if that makes sense. So goats are kind of funky in their leg anatomy, and so it was kind of difficult to actually make the overall decision of if it made more sense for the kind of satyr leg to match the back leg of a goat or the front leg of a goat. And ultimately, while it makes sense anatomically for the legs of a satyr to follow the back leg, for all of these, I chose to actually have it adhere to a goat's front legs because that's a little bit more similar to the way that human legs work. And so if you're actually to like put into reference that this is somebody who is supposed to behave and act like a human, the back legs of a goat operate like our arms, right? So for a goat's back legs, they have an elbow, and a goat's front legs are where the knees are located. So technically, if I wanted my satyr to have the back legs of a goat, because that would kind of line up anatomically with human legs matching a goat's back legs, they would have to have inverse joints, and so instead they would have an elbow instead of a knee, and then their arms would have a knee instead of an elbow. It's kind of convoluted, but basically a goat is kind of like opposite of how a human works. So the front has the knee, back has the elbow, and it makes it easier to just kind of fold their legs around and kind of bend forward, right? So if you've ever seen livestock kind of kneel down, right, they kind of drop their legs forward. So they fold them kind of like how we would move to sit on our knees, and then they kind of drop their back legs. So I don't know, it's kind of hard to articulate, but I overall just decided it made a little bit more sense to operate this way, because I felt like it would be a little bit less weird looking. Like, I felt like it was gonna look really kooky in a way that was borderline uncanny. So instead of it looking like cool and anatomically kind of matching, I felt like it would have just looked wrong in a way that would be not easily articulated. Like, it would be just unsettling and not cool, right? So I might experiment with those leg options in the future when I'm a little bit more comfortable drawing satyrs and kind of exploring the anatomy. But for now, I was like, nope, that just kind of looks creepy. I think it's in my best interest that I don't even entertain the idea. Because, like, I don't know why, but having elbows for knees just makes me not happy, and I don't like it. And I don't have an issue with, like, the double jointed knee where you can, like, push them backwards. Like, we're talking, like, a human who, like, to kneel, their feet go forward and their knees go backwards, right? Like, that just sounds so wrong. I hate it. I don't want to think about it. That is hitting just horror movie territory, and I only want to see that in a video game, never just like one of my casual cute illustrations. Like, I'm too soft to entertain that thought any further. I just hated it so much. So we're not doing that. But I really wanted to get kind of creatively I wanted to take creative liberty. Let's reword the whole sentence so I don't have to think. I wanted to take creative liberty with the way that the goat leg kind of actually applied to the human leg. And so in that, I kind of took the curves a lot more extremely and added a lot of harshity to those joints. You know, I really wanted them to be pronounced because they are an M natural component of the character, right? Like, this is not adhering to our standard of how a leg works. So I really wanted them to be emphasized, strong, and visually kind of there, right? And so I also added the hair around those regions a lot more kind of like obviously, like I added the cute little like tufts so that it was like, yep, here they are. These are the joints. Look at them, right? And also, I think that it makes a little bit of sense to add extra tufts around those joints, but then have the joint itself be a little bit more nude or shorter haired. That's not because I like want the bare joint, but when you think about an animal like a goat or even your dog, right, you notice how their elbows tend to get pretty calloused or scabbed up, especially if they spend a lot of time outside, because they're putting a lot of their weight and pressure on it, and it's just getting all really like worn and torn with all of their age and their life experiences and all of that. So it kind of makes sense for the hair to be like extra tuft looking above the joint, but then a lot more bare around the actual kind of joint itself, because it probably experiences a lot more life and like wear and tear than the fattier parts of the body, right? Like, if you feel like your own elbows and you don't moisturize a lot, like your elbow's probably a lot rougher than the rest of your arm. Kind of the same application, but I wanted to kind of add that to the character design, but not super hardcore emphasize it, because I didn't really want to like go in and render like a scabbed up body part, because this was just supposed to be exploration and a learning process, not necessarily some particularly intensely thought out, realistic approach to the world. But I took it into account and I thought about it when adding littler elements, but I'm not going for like a hyper realistic approach. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to make this a full-time character. I really, really like that first design, and I think I do want to make them a full-time character, but I really have to think on it and play around with outfit ideas and really sketch them a lot more to see how they develop further before I make that decision. If you want me to make an entire video sketching that satyr in particular, the first sketch of the video, and turning them into a character, let me know and I'll be sure to work on that, because I want to draw more of these, but I don't know that you guys want to see more of it, and which is fine either way. Just let me know, yay or nay, how you feel about it. So I guess with that, let's kind of just explore some of the reasons why I didn't like the second sketch at all. For wrapping why I don't like my second sketch into the thumbnail that I cut the sketch process out of, well, I don't like either of them, so like, why talk about it more than necessary? Second sketch I don't like. No, you cannot have hooves for hands. I do not like it. Please stop it. 2, do people even tag goats? 3, having a hairy tuft in between normal human boobs is uncanny, and I do not like it, and I never want to think about it again. However, I really, really like the mullet. I think satyrs and mullets are a good vibe. I approve of it. Then for the thumbnail that I'm basically ignoring for the entire rest of this video, aside from this one little section, it was my first digital sketch of the day. I wanted to get the idea down, and I hadn't warmed it up. Like, this was a completely separate day from the physical traditional sketchbook, and so just bad warm up, really, honestly. And the idea's down. I think I do want to do a sketch. It's not well articulated, but they're supposed to be just like leaning forward, hands on hips, kind of irritated energy. So I don't know, I might do something with it in the future, but the idea is down out into the universe, and I don't really need to think about it any further unless I want to do something with it. So I don't like either of those sketches, really. However, this last digital thumbnail is chef's kiss. Please commit to watching it. I know it's a long segment, but I really, really like this sketch, and I think I really cooked for it being the second sketch of the day, I swear. Throughout this process, I slowly started to think of drawing goat legs, kind of like the basic shape for a chunky leg warmer, which probably a horrible idea, but kind of compartmentalizing that information that way made it feel like I wasn't drawing an animal body part or in the first place, which really helped me to once again kind of deconstruct the discomfort and I think the preconceived idea of, quote, I can't draw animals, unquote, where it kind of got to the point where I'm starting to think that I have been struggling to draw animals for so long that I have just decided that I suck at it, I can't do it, and now even if I probably do have the skill set to draw some animals without it looking horrible, I just don't believe myself capable of it. And so I'm like kind of setting myself up for failure, not even intentionally, by having such an intense self-doubt about the actual kind of ability that I have to do the thing, basically. And so I am getting a lot more comfortable with the shape and the shape language that is kind of coming out of these body parts. And I think that the more I start to do this, the more capable I will be of drawing animals for the foreseeable future. Like, I think I'm starting to finally kind of grasp some of these basic ideas to a degree where I'm hoping that I might actually be able to do something soon. Like, I'm starting to gain a confidence that's feeling really, really good. And so when it came to this thumbnail sketch that I'm working on, it might actually turn into an illustration in the future. I didn't have any references pulled up for goat legs or anything. I didn't have any references at all. and that is usually a test process for me. I recommend always having references on your screen or present for you to look at what you're drawing and make sure that you're doing it right. However, there is a step in the learning process for me where I try to remove the reference and see, can I make something that I will be satisfied with when I return to it later with the reference? It's kind of like a skill check for like a math program, right? It's like a test your knowledge. Can you do it? And if I can kind of doodle out an idea and I don't hate it when I have a reference later to actually check my work, that means that I'm starting to gain that base level muscle memory understanding, and I'm getting somewhere where the improvement is actually notable. It's kind of like a little just for me, am I actually grasping the skill, or am I getting better at copying what I'm looking at? Because there is a difference between being really good at copying and emulating something and actually figuring out the basic information and acquiring the muscle memory and ability to do it without that direct image to copy, right? There is a difference between utilizing a reference and copying a reference, and it's kind of similar to that, right? If you have a reference and you can copy a one-to-one, that is cool, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you actually understand what you're looking at or are processing that information in a way where you actually are demonstrating a deeper understanding of the information. It's kind of like when you have an exam. I actually don't know if they do exams like this in high school, but college exams, it's like when they ask you to apply the information in the form of a word problem. Like when you get into college, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of those vocabulary-based quizzes. They want you to actually prove that you know how to utilize that vocabulary properly in a sentence and can demonstrate a deeper understanding. They are going to give you a case study or a case scenario, and then they expect you to actually be able to undo and kind of break down that case study, that case information, and achieve a correct answer. You know, it's going to be maybe similar to something you looked at in class, but it's not going to be identical. It's not you reciting and regurgitating, as they often say, the information provided in class. You have to actually show that you did more. You understood it, and not that you can just recite the correct answer. And so this is kind of my process of actually checking and seeing if that's where I'm at yet. And if I really hated the sketch after the fact, and I was coming to you and saying, wow, I really hate this sketch, that wouldn't necessarily be a failure on my part. It just means that I have to do more practice and work on creating that repetition and getting familiar with these shapes. But I really, really like this one. I have been double checking the photo of it I have on my phone because this is on a different device I record with my phone, and I still really like it. Like, I want to make it an illustration, which is a huge green flag when it comes to me doing a skill set check for myself. And honestly, I kind of felt like I got the legs correct first try for myself. I was actually coming to the issue where I was unintentionally setting the shoulder back way too far on the body. It currently still is way too far back on the body. Because all of the other sketches I had been doing were a kind of 3/4 body turn, I was used to that shoulder being further back and more of the collarbone being visible. But because this is supposed to be a character leaning back, you shouldn't be able to see so much of that kind of upper kind of clavicle region. And so I do fix it, but if it's looking weird right now, that's why. The shoulder needs to be set much further forward. It's an issue I run into a lot personally. I do not like to put my character directly against the edge of my kind of thumbnail box, because what if I want to put something behind them? Or what if I want to move it around a little bit? That thumbnail border will just get in the way. And so I tend to set them a lot further forward and then just move the thumbnail around to figure out how I actually want it to sit on the page later. And then I work with it, right? Basic idea, then I see how do I want the actual composition to look. in this case, I actually do put something behind the character for them to be leaning upon, so it's good that that thumbnail border wasn't there and kind of in the way, causing issues, but overall, sometimes because there is no like frame of reference for how the body is sitting, I can kind of get a little bit confused with the idea of like how the body sits against something, right? So I'm gonna add a tree later, and because it's not there yet, it's like the shoulder isn't like actually pressed against anything, so I kind of forget how level with the body it can actually be at times. Generally, I kind of need to think about it a little bit more, and I think I was still in the like 3/4 body turn mindset because I had been just double checking my traditional sketches and seeing that I was still liking them from the couple days prior before I actually worked on the digital sketch. So I think I was still in that brain. And then also is my first like good sketch of the day. Like I'm actually sitting down and I'm really kind of like working on it. The initial thumbnail is just kind of like getting an idea down, moving on. This one I really wanted to think about and put time and care into, and so it's kind of like the first real application of my skills of the day, and that can get a little bit complicated. I should have warmed up beforehand, but I almost never actually remember to do that at this rate, so it's all good. But the shoulder gets moved forward, and I think overall, as a character design, I'm really, really happy with this one. I really like it, and I think I want to make it a proper illustration. If you guys want to see me make it a proper illustration, let me know about that as well. You guys have to let me know a lot down in the comments at this rate, because I've asked a lot of questions, but I haven't properly rendered something on Clip Studio Paint yet, so I can't make any promises that it will turn out good. I'm not entirely sure that I have figured out my rendering style in Clip Studio Paint. I have ideas of how I want to do it, but I'm not sure how it'll actually turn out, how I will enjoy the process and the workflow, so it's definitely something that'll be a very experimental process, and so I'm not entirely sure how many times I'll need to redo making this an illustration before it'll actually work, if that makes sense. Generally, when I get a new program or I'm doing something completely new, I anticipate that I will be remaking the same drawing multiple times before I actually feel positively about the work that's being produced and how it's actually turning out and looking, and I feel like I have a grasp on the program and or material enough to continue forward with art of that nature. So not a guarantee yet, but it's definitely up there in the goals that I have, so it'll probably happen pretty soon, but what sketch I actually turn into a proper piece is a little bit more 50-50. However, now that we have the shoulder fixed, we're starting to get a little bit more reasonable anatomy, and by reasonable I mean it's not as bad. We're starting to get in some more kind of conceptual details and making notes on where I actually want the fur to be on the physical body, how I want the hoof to be shaped, all of those good kind of shenanigans, and starting to carve out a little bit more of those initial ideas and how I want it to actually kind of be executed visually overall, right? I think that once you get the initial idea down, you can kind of just go back and start scratching in, especially digitally, some more kind of defining, some more emphasis on the forms, particularly the leg. It didn't feel goaty enough, and so really just kind of harshening up those lines and making sure the kind of joints are a lot more visually emphasized, adding more hair in regions to make it feel a little bit more not totally human, and ensuring that I'm actually kind of conveying those ideas that I really care about and want to feel kind of, I want them to feel kind of important, right? The fur and the legs are pretty much the greatest emphasis on how I want to approach making it feel like a satyr and not just some hairy thing in the woods, right? I really want it to feel identifiable, and so I don't really want it to be easy to mix up this kind of character with any other creatures that might exist in the woods and have an abundance of hair. Who knows? And so having the hoof be front and center in the piece felt really important. And as I was going, I really wanted to kind of think about a way to make the leg look more interesting. And so I'm thinking about maybe finding a way to like decorate a hoof. I'm not entirely sure how intelligent of a thought that is, but I'm not saying it's not interesting. Like, having goat legs is kind of super interesting, but a way to emphasize and show personality and character, just, an aspect of an identity that is a little bit more pizzazz to it. And kind of how would a satyr accessorize in a way to kind of distinguish themselves from other satyrs and really kind of show who they are. We strongly associate our clothing, the way we dress, and all of that, what we wear, with our identity as people. And so, how does that apply to somebody who has goat legs and therefore does not need to wear pants? I don't know. So, I was thinking like a hooflet, kind of like an anklet, but just like a chain, or like those belly chains that people wear, like around their waist. Something like that for hooves would be a very simple way to add some character, and I can approach it kind of like a charm bracelet thing. I don't add it in the sketch. I'm like thinking about this after the fact, like how do I create more emphasis? How do I create more intrigue and make them look more them, right? So I'm thinking a hooflet. I guess I could just call it an anklet because hooflet sounds weird. You can't put like jizz bits on a hoof, so like I don't really know what else you can do, but like I don't know. The satyr equivalency of those Pandora bracelets. I'm not gonna shade any Pandora bracelet wearers, not for me. But like a charm bracelet, like a you get the charms that express your personality kind of thing, right? That was an idea. The first sketch had that chain on the kind of the top, the bralette that she was wearing. I don't give this one top just because I didn't really think out how I want it to look in any capacity or get particularly kind of confident in, I guess, just the way that a bodice would be worn. Like, I'm just really not sure about that one. And so, in that, I'm kind of hesitant to add one yet. I feel like I need to know what I like and want as an outfit more before I commit to adding it into the sketch, because I don't want to commit to something I don't totally love. And I do keep up with the strange kind of extra jointed wrist a little bit, but I'm not sure I want to commit to it, so it's kind of just notated in the sketch for the most part, but eventually I think I get rid of it. I'm not jiving with it, but I feel like there should be an extra joint in there to add to the goatness. I don't know, but it feels right but wrong at the same time, and I don't know what to do about that idea. Like, it really bothers me. I don't like the way it looks. I feel like it would be really uncomfortable, but it also makes sense, and it's a very complicated relationship I'm having with the concept of a double jointed wrist, but I don't know what to do about that one. It weirds me out. I'm sure I'll come up with something eventually, but it's just really sitting in the back of my brain and haunting me until further notice. So, kind of like the anklet, I am thinking that you could probably hang some pretty cool chains from horns as well, or maybe like an accessory that runs between the horns as a way to just kind of add an accessory. However, if you have a lot of hair, then it's just going to get caught in it and be super annoying. I mean, I don't even have a lot of hair, and I can already tell that I would find that incredibly irritating, and it would make me hate existing. Like, I hate things getting in my hair. It drives me bonkers. So, currently, the only, like, real way of, like, expressing and creating a strong personality that I can think of so far is accessories that emphasize the parts of the body that are uniquely not human. So, the anklet for the hoof, jewelry that really kind of emphasize the goat ear, then maybe horn jewelry, I'm not sure. I suppose you could, like, paint your horn with, like, safe paint, you know, like put little stars on hearts on it, but I don't know if that's a little bit too kiddish. And I do try rethinking about the hair between the boob. I still don't like it. I think I'm gonna get rid of it. It really bothers me. It makes me uncomfy. I don't know why. Something about the hair and the boob, it feels like it would be really sweaty and uncomfortable and awkward, and I don't like it. Like, imagine how obnoxious it would be having to condition between your boobs. I would lose it, okay? I would lose it. Y'all, I can't do it, okay? And so I think I hate it. Does it make sense in terms of character design? Probably. But how much I hate the idea of having to live with it drives me insane. So I'm not entirely sure I want to commit to it sketch-wise, but we'll see what I do with it. I mean, maybe I'll find a way to add it and make it not drive me insane, but I'm not entirely sure about that one. But ultimately, I would love to know which of these sketches is your favorite, and I think it's about time we slide on into the outro. Thank you so much for watching all the way through to the end of this video. I had a really good time this week in terms of art creation. It's been a really rough one for me, and I'm going through a lot in my personal life that is making this really difficult. I almost didn't post a video this week at all because I just didn't think I can do it. But art has been a really healing component of this entire experience I've been going through, and so I really am glad that I got to share with you guys art that really made me being upset, you know, like not drawing about being upset, but drawing about something completely different really helped me, so I really appreciate you sitting all the way through. I would love to know which of my sketches from this week is your favorite. If you have any thoughts and opinions on how to kind of personalize a satyr, that's super cool. And then I suppose, like if you like, dislike if you dislike, subscribe if you would like to see more of my content. Share this video with anyone who you think would enjoy it. I post every week on Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I suppose that's it. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, wherever you are, and with all of this being said, bye-bye!